In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at this modeled guidance, just going day by day, taking a look at multiple severe weather outbreaks and tornado outbreaks for that matter, and also alongside those, multiple monster storms dropping far in pressure, becoming very strong low pressure centers. So we need to watch all of this in the upcoming pattern. Also some big temperature changes, so there is plenty to go over in this video. As always, we're going to dive into the Storm Prediction Center outlooks, not only for this severe weather event, but the next major severe weather outbreak as well at the end of the video. So stay tuned for that, as we will go over all of those things. We'll take a deep dive into that actually. But let's take a look quickly at our conditions here on the model guidance. We see this low is located over Nebraska. We have this cold front developing, and we expect a lot of severe weather throughout these areas here. We're going to be watching very closely, as there's a moderate risk of severe weather today. Again, I don't want to give too much away. We're going to be talking about that at the end of the video, so I don't want to spend too much time on that yet, since there's going to be plenty of time dedicated later on. We can see the low is going to be over central Illinois, or Iowa, better yet, by the time we're taking a look at about 2-3 p.m. here on Friday, March 31st today. We can see that there is a cold front stretching down, and this is what's causing a lot of this. The warm front here, and really just surging warm air up and down the east coast. That is the look. We do also have major snowfall taking place here throughout the upper Midwest and northern plains. It's also definitely worth noting there, stretching all the way into the Great Lakes as well. We see a lot of this snowfall taking place. So definitely a concerning look here, to say the least. As we keep this going, we can see that by tomorrow afternoon, we are going to be seeing definitely some severe weather and this cold front taking place up and down the east coast now. So thunderstorms expected for a lot of these areas. Something like this. Actually, these areas here have a slight risk at severe weather, I believe, on Saturday, April 1st. So definitely a bigger event for those folks as well. A very early spring severe weather event, minor severe weather event potentially. And as we can see, by the time we're reaching the 4th here on about Tuesday, 11 a.m. approximately, we see a very strong low, and this is basically bombing out at this point. We see that this starts as a 988 there, and it drops all the way down into the mid 970s. But I mean, just 48 hours or so before this, it was a 1000 millibar low. So this one really quickly drops in pressure significantly, all the way down into the 970s. But it's important to note that this takes about the same track. We see this low over eastern Colorado. Heavy snowfall here for the Rockies and portions of the plains. This storm continues to rise up through into further east. Here we see a 978 again by this point. Cold front, warm front dynamic taking place. So very strong, warm, surging air there to the east. And that cold is trying to move in behind it. And we have a major blizzard taking place to the west and north of this low. This storm is by far much stronger than the current one that is causing our severe weather outbreak today. Now, that does not mean that the severe weather will be worse, but it does mean that it is a stronger low. Definitely the snowfall looks to be worse than the one that we're currently seeing, so that is worth noting for sure. And we see this cold front, it just becomes highly convective overnight Tuesday into Wednesday. And we can see plenty of precipitation moving through that frontal boundary. Also a very strong warm front there as well. I am afraid this could be a overnight threat. This is at about 5 a.m., 4 or 5 a.m. here on Wednesday, April 5th. We can see areas like Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Arkansas there, eastern Kansas, eastern Oklahoma involved. But a lot of this is happening, starting at maybe 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., So this looks, as of now, and this could change, but this as of now looks like this could be a very late severe weather event, late in the night. Now, by Wednesday afternoon, we can see this frontal boundary has extended here towards the deeper south, even in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York here. We see it stretching through these areas there. And then even by the next day, we still see this frontal boundary on Thursday, the 6th here, causing some thunderstorm activity throughout these areas also. And then it eventually cuts off from the low and becomes more of like a stationary front, perhaps. That precipitation is kind of just lingering in the southeast. We see some storms try to move up like this. So this is taking us backwards kind of towards a more March pattern like what we saw, where we see this kind of storm rising up through the southeast there, as you can see. Certainly an interesting look. This would bring less severe weather, potentially heavier rainfall, though, for a lot of these areas. Usually these types of trajectories don't lead towards that much severe weather, which is good news, of course. As we take a look at the total precipitation, it kind of tells the full story. We have these lows moving up like this, pretty much doing that on both accounts. Now, we see that the cold front is going to extend down on both of these storms and move through these regions, and that's why we get a lot of this precipitation underneath. We do eventually, from that second low, get a front that's kind of extending down like this, and then we get a low that develops and moves along that, and that is probably why we get a very large amount of rainfall for Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, because as you saw at the end of the model run, we do get heavier rainfall for an extended period of time there as we approach April, kind of like 7th through 10th. So that is something to also watch for, potential flooding perhaps. That it does seem like a very large amount of rainfall happening there. Now, the total snowfall, obviously our mountainous west is expecting plentiful amounts as they've seen all winter long, but it's mostly these pockets here just to the north and west of the low that I think are especially interesting as we see the low move something like this. We see very heavy snowfall to the north of that low, and even as it's about here, we see kind of an extension in the Rockies where they get plenty here as well. As this low is kind of moving around just like this, we do get pretty large amounts in there as well. All of the areas in kind of like the pastel blue colors is going to be multiple feet of snowfall, and as we move into those pastel pinks within those pastel blues, that's even taking a look at perhaps 3-4 feet. So certainly a lot there for the Dakotas, Nebraska, Minnesota, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, and Idaho. Definitely very, very large and plentiful amounts of snowfall there. Now, let's take a look at this temperature pattern real quickly. I just want to dive into this because we do have this surging warm air in the east, the troughing cold air in the west. So something like this is what we see here. We do get some cool downs in between, and we're going to see that in just a minute, but we see the cold obviously moving in with these lows. By this point, the low is probably there. That's kind of what's the front of all of this. We see a cold air mass move in for Sunday the 2nd, and already by Monday the 3rd, it's warmed back up. So it's not even going to be that bad or long-lived for that matter, really. We see a big surging warm-up for midweek next week in the east here, Wednesday the 5th into Thursday the 6th for the East Coast. Then we get another brief cool down there, as you can see, but that warmth tries to fight back. Maybe we get a cold period here around the 10th through the 12th, but look at this. As we take a look at the 10-day average here, what we see is that there is this kind of southeast ridge still taking place just like we saw all wintertime long. And as we take a look at that first 10-day period, it's apparent that we have a very strong southeast ridge. So this is still playing its part late into mid-April at least. So very interesting stuff. Let's go ahead and dive into the Storm Prediction Center and take a look at those outlooks real quickly. Now, I want you to note a couple of things. Our worst area of severe weather is expected here through this area, obviously. And we could see that there is little to no convection or precipitation, in other words, around for most of these areas. Actually, the eastern side of things is really the eastern and southern side of things are the only areas where there is these types of storms taking place. And the importance of this is the more these precipitation areas can clear out, the more chance we have at severe thunderstorms later on. The clearing and the sun and the humidity is what's going to allow for these conditions to ripen for this severe weather to take place. Now, if it was to stay cloudy and we saw isolated thunderstorms taking place throughout all of these areas, that would slightly decrease the odds of that severe weather happening. Obviously, severe weather is going to happen to some extent, but it's going to be, honestly, a little bit dwindled at that point if we saw serious convection throughout all of these areas. Now, that is not happening at this point, and I want to emphasize that. So we do see plenty of clearing, which is usually a very, very bad sign. And honestly, all of this precipitation anyway is on its way out, as you can see. So over the next couple of hours, we're going to actually see all of this pretty much just move out anyway. We see these southern areas here. These are going to basically move out as well. It's going to take a little bit more time here for Arkansas, Tennessee, and Mississippi, but that should basically move out as well. So by the afternoon, we should see thunderstorms firing up. We do have mostly clearing, especially in the moderate risk areas. So that is why we have the precipitation on screen, actually. So I want to get rid of that real quick, actually. So we'll go ahead and select this. There we go. Get rid of that. So we can see that our moderate risk has grown in size. Real quickly though, the light green area here is our general thunderstorm risk area. We don't expect severe weather in these pockets. It is also always kind of possible, but we certainly don't expect it at this point. We just expect general thunderstorms throughout these areas. Now in the darker green region, this is our marginal risk, and this is where we expect isolated severe weather reports to come in with these thunderstorms that are worsening by the time they enter into these areas here. The yellow region is where we expect scattered severe weather, so a little bit more abundant throughout these areas. We can see areas like Birmingham in there, Kansas City is in there, Milwaukee, Toledo is in that as well. So we're seeing a lot of these areas in the yellow risk area. Now the orange area is where things start to get really bad. This is our enhanced risk area. This is where we expect widespread severe weather to start being possible. And we see areas like Nashville, Louisville. We see areas there in Lexington, Kentucky, I think is in there as well. Cincinnati being included here. We see Indianapolis, Chicago. Des Moines is right on the fence there. Jefferson City we see in there. We see a lot of different areas in this orange area for the enhanced risk, which again is where we start to see more widespread things. And then this dark red region is going to be our moderate risk of severe weather. That is a level 4 severe weather risk. We expect extremely widespread and damaging severe weather to take place. Potential for strong, long track tornadoes to take place in here as well, unfortunately. Which that isn't just exclusive for the red region, by the way. These tornadoes can happen in any of these regions. Even outside of the general thunderstorm risk area cannot be ruled out, obviously. Nothing can be ruled out, right? So we can see that areas like Davenport, Des Moines, again, right on the fence here. Cedar Rapids up there in Iowa. Springfield, Illinois. St. Louis there involved. Memphis, Jackson, Tennessee. Jonesboro there in Arkansas. And then we see Little Rock is just inside of the moderate risk area as well. And yesterday, it was basically something like this. We just saw these two areas here. And none of this in between stuff. So this has certainly grown. St. Louis is now included, Springfield, all these areas in between here are brand new basically for this moderate risk outlook as of this morning. So it's expected to be a linear, just a line of these severe storms and supercells developing here underneath our low. So our low is going to be way up above here, and then we're going to have a cold front stretching, and that's where those supercells are going to develop along. Definitely not a good setup at all. Definitely a very high risk of severe weather. Not literally a high risk, obviously, but higher in general. Now we're going to take a look at the extended outlook here. So we're going to take a look at this real quickly. It should be day 5 by now. Yeah, there we go. So this is going to be for the 4th into the 5th of April here. I forget exactly what day this is. Maybe it'll say right here. This is going to be the 4th into the 5th there, and this is going to include a lot of different areas. Now the yellow area, you might be wondering, is a 15% chance of severe weather within 25 miles of a given location. This translates to a slight risk. This orange area here is a 30% chance of severe weather within 25 miles of a given location, and that translates to at least an enhanced risk. So we're expecting that once this is on day 3 and we get the actual categorical outlooks, that this will be a slight risk, all of these yellow areas, and then this will be at least an enhanced risk. Now we can see that Kansas City is in here, St. Louis again, Fort Smith there, Fayetteville, Springfield, Columbia, Jefferson City again, St. Joseph there. So we have a lot of different areas throughout Missouri and Arkansas especially, but also southern Iowa, western Illinois, eastern Kansas, and then northeastern Oklahoma are also involved here in this more enhanced risk. So this is, after today, going to be our focus as this looks to be the next major severe weather event. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe as we do upload every single day. Also, be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.